Hey, this is Math Minutes Pro with Dr. Harrison. Today, we're going to talk about how to write and graph inequalities on a number line. And in this particular video, we're going to focus on using multiplication and division properties of inequality. If you watched the other video where we're writing and graphing inequalities on a number line, we were using addition and subtraction properties of inequality, but we're focusing this time on multiplication and division properties of inequality. Before we get started, let's give a quick review of the four inequality symbols that help us to determine how to graph it. So let's say if we have less than or greater than, remember, we're going to have an open circle when we graph that inequality. If we have less than or equal to or greater than or equal to, we're going to have a closed circle. Remember, when you are reading an inequality, you read it from the left side. That's why that's less than. From the left side, that's greater than. That's less than or equal to. That's greater than or equal to. Okay? So let's go ahead and jump right in and have some fun. So let's say you're giving an inequality that says 3 times x is greater than 27. And we need to solve that inequality and then graph it. Well, let's write it again. 3 times x is greater than 27, so I can make this next step explicit. We need to isolate or solve for x. We need to get rid of the coefficient 3. That's a positive coefficient. What's the opposite of multiplying x by 3? You divide x by 3. And whatever you do to one side of the inequality, you do to the other side, divided by 3. 3 divided by 3 is 1. So we just bring down the x. That coefficient is 1, even though you don't see it there. Bring down greater than. And then 27 divided by 3 is 9. So we have solved and written the inequality. Now let's graph the inequality. Here is our number line. Identify 0. Plot 9 on there. Let's say about right here. And then let's read it again. It says here, all values of x greater than 9. So that's going to be what? An open circle. And if it's greater than 9, the graph is going to go toward the right. That means that these numbers that are greater than 9 are solutions. Is 9 a solution? No, because if I plug in 9, 9 is not greater than 9. But 10 could be a solution. 11 could be a solution. 49 could be a solution. 49 is greater than 9. Okay? Now, let's write the answer and represent it with a sentence. All values of 9, all values of x that are what? Greater than 9. Okay, so here we have a map sentence, a picture, and a model. They all say the same thing. All values of x greater than 9. All values of x greater than 9. All values of x greater than 9. Very good. All right, let's solve another. And remember, we'll solve another inequality and graph it. If you need to go back, just pause or stop the video, okay? So that you can have a little more thinking time with the problem. You can do that. All right? This is personalized learning with videos, so that's the value of these on-demand videos. You can pause the video, you can rewind it. It's great. Okay, let's solve another inequality. Let's say we have negative 40 is greater than or equal to 8 times v. Sometimes, now you're used to solving inequalities where the variable is on the left side of the inequality. If they give it to you this way, then just rewrite it. And then open your mouth and say it. 8 times v is less than or equal to negative 40. This means the same thing as that, okay? All right, now, let's go ahead and write it again. And we need to solve for v. What's the opposite of what's the opposite of multiplying v by 8? You divide. The opposite of multiplication is division. Whatever you do to one side, you do to the other. So you divide this by 8. 8 divided by 8 is 1. Cross that out. Bring down v. Bring down less than or equal to. Negative divided by a positive is a negative. So 40 divided by 8 is, what's the opposite? 8 times what is 40? That's 5. Yeah, so negative 40 divided by 8 is negative 5. This is our final answer. All values of v less than or equal to negative 5. Now, let's graph this inequality. Here is our 0. Let's put negative 5 right here. If you want to put the other numbers in between, negative 4, negative 3, negative 2, negative 1, that's up to you. But this is acceptable as well. Now, before we draw the arrow, what type of circle are we going to have? It's a closed circle. So let's put our closed circle here. Okay. All values of v less than or equal to negative 5. Less than or equal to. These values are less than negative 5. Okay? Now let's write this answer also as a sentence. All values of v less than or equal to negative 5. Let me throw this one back in. Now, if they ask you to write this, to identify solutions that make this inequality true, the answer, okay? So I'm going to say a set of solutions, that's what that means, that make it true. A set of solutions that make it true. What's a value that's less than negative 5? It could be negative 6, negative 20, but it says less than or equal to negative 5. So we can also have negative 5 as a solution. Because I feel like in negative 6 for v, negative 6 is less than negative 5. That's true. If I plug in negative 20 for v, negative 20 is less than negative 5. But if I plug in negative 5 for v, negative 5 is not less than negative 5, but it is negative 5 is equal to negative 5. So this is a set of solutions right here. Solve the inequality, graph it, write the answer in a sentence, and then describe the set of solutions. Okay, let's solve another problem. What about if you have an inequality that looks like this with a fraction? 2/3 times k is greater than 6. So I'm going to show you a trick, and that's how to solve this inequality and get k by itself. And we're going to use something called the reciprocal. We're going to write the reciprocal of this coefficient and use that to help us solve this inequality. So I'm going to copy this again, bring this down. 2 over 3 times k is greater than 6. What is the reciprocal of 2/3? Because look, I'm trying to get k by itself. So what can I do to get rid of 2/3? Well, I can multiply both sides of this inequality by the reciprocal of the coefficient. Reciprocal means to flip. So what's the reciprocal of 2/3? 3 over 2. And if I multiply that side by 3 over 2, I got to multiply this side by 3 over 2. So let's see how that makes a difference. 3 divided by 3, that's 1. 2 divided by 2, that's 1. Or 3 times 2 is 6. 2 times 3 is 6. 6 over 6 is 1. You cross that out, that leaves you with k. That is your trick when you have a fraction as a coefficient. Coefficient is the number in front of the variable. So bring down the k, bring down the greater than symbol. And now we need to get ready to multiply these two fractions. We'll do a little review. We'll turn that 6 into a fraction by putting it over 1. When you're multiplying fractions, what happens? You go numerator times numerator over denominator times denominator. So 6 times 3 would give me 18 over 1 times 2 would give me 2. But I can rewrite that. K is greater than 18 divided by 2 is 9. This is, we've solved this inequality, and this represents the solution. K, all values of k greater than 9. Now, let's graph the inequality. Here, we identify 0, plot 9, maybe here. And what type of circle is that, open or closed? It's going to be an open circle. So let's put an open circle over the 9. It says all values of k greater than 9. So if it's greater than 9, it has to go in this direction to the right. Okay? So we've solved it. We've graphed it. And then I think that's acceptable. All values of k greater than 9. Now, things change when you're solving an inequality where the coefficient is negative. Here, the coefficient of the variable is positive. But what do you do if you're solving an inequality where the coefficient is negative? I'm glad you asked. So let's take a look at just 2 problems to see how you approach that. Not difficult, it's just that you have to remember what to do. Okay? So let's take an inequality that says, well, we have negative 2 times p is less than negative 10. Now, when I say the negative coefficient, don't get this confused. This is not the coefficient. I'm not referring to that negative number. I'm referring to this negative number. Coefficient is in front of the variable. So, whenever you are solving an inequality where you have a negative coefficient, it's something you got to remember. You got to remember to reverse the symbol in your final answer. Okay? That's the case when you have what is called a negative coefficient. When you have a negative coefficient, reverse the symbol, okay? All right, so let's see what that looks like. Well, let's go ahead and rewrite this. Negative 2 times p is less than negative 10. The coefficient is negative 2. I need to get rid of this variable. Let me clarify that. Well, I'll clarify it as we solve this problem. Now we need to solve for p. What is the opposite of multiplying p by negative 2? Yeah, you divide p by negative 2. Whatever you do to one side, you do to the other. Okay, so in this case, whenever you have to divide both sides of the inequality by a negative number, you're going to have to reverse that symbol. So negative 2 divided by negative 2, that's 1. Negative divided by negative is a positive. Bring down the p. Aha! Reverse the symbol. So I'm going to use a different color. Instead of it saying less than, we're going to make it say greater than, and I'll explain why. Reverse the symbol. Actually, let me use a different color. We use the orange. Okay. Negative divided by a negative is a positive. 10 divided by 2 is 5. This is our answer. Okay? Now let's graph it. Let's go ahead and graph this inequality where we have 0, 5, and according to this symbol, we're going to use an open circle. All values of p greater than 5 would go in this direction. That's the graph. Now let me explain to you why we had to reverse that symbol. So pay attention. I'm going to sort of demonstrate that over here in this section of why we had to reverse the symbol. If I did not reverse the symbol, right, I would have gotten p less than 5, correct? And then if I pick a solution, what's an example of a solution where p is less than 5? Could be 4. 4 is less than 5, right? So if I plug this into here, it's not going to work. If I plug it into the original inequality, let's prove it. Negative 2 times 4, where p, let's say, is 4, less than negative 10. Negative 2 times negative 4 times positive 4 is a negative 8. Bring that down, negative 10. Is negative 8 less than negative 10? No, it's not true. This statement right here is not true. Therefore, since that's not true, do not use this symbol. Use a different color. We had to reverse it, okay? That's why we had to reverse it, okay? So if I plug in, now I'm going to prove why this is correct, and I'm going to prove that over here to the right side. So let's pick a value where it said p is greater than 5. Pick a value that makes this true. Let's say 6. So write that sentence, negative 2 times where p is equal to 6, right? Less than negative 10. So then I get negative 2 times 6 is negative 12, and less than negative 10. Is negative 12 less than negative 10? Yes. True. This is true. That's why we say this is the proof that you must remember to reverse your symbol when you have a negative coefficient. okay? Or else you're not going to get the correct final answer, okay? I recommend you watch this video or this problem more than once, because you're going to need to really own this and solve this problem more than once. So let's solve one more problem like this involving a negative coefficient. And then you can watch this problem where I explain why. I'm not going to explain why again, why you have to reverse the symbol, because I just did it. So you can come back to this video to listen to me explain why. But I am going to show you how to solve an inequality again where you have a negative coefficient. All right, let's say we have a fraction. Negative 1/2 times m is greater than or equal to, let me erase that, -7. Okay, look at this problem. Think about what you're going to do before you do it. All right. We have a negative coefficient, negative 1/2. We need to get rid of that to get m by itself. And I showed you that when you have a fraction as a coefficient, you can multiply both sides of the inequality by the what? That R word, by the reciprocal, in order to get rid of that coefficient. So let's do that. But in this case, we're going to have to multiply it by the negative reciprocal in order to get m by itself, where the coefficient of m is a positive number. So let's copy this sentence again. Negative 1/2 times m greater than or equal to -7. I need some space. We move it over some. Negative 1/2 times m is greater than or equal to -7. Now I need to multiply both sides by the negative reciprocal this time. Both sides of this inequality. So we say negative. And what's the reciprocal of 1/2? 2/1. So I multiply this side by -2/1. Why did I use negative? Because a negative times a negative is going to give me a positive. Okay? And I want that coefficient of m, that 1, to be a positive 1. So negative times negative is a positive. 2 times 1 is 2. 1 times 2 is 2. So these cross out. And I bring down positive m. Negative times a negative is a positive. There, m is by itself. Wonderful. Now, remember, when you have a negative coefficient, you're going to have to remember to reverse the symbol. So we're getting ready to write that symbol. So instead of writing greater than or equal to, I'm going to write less than or equal to. Less than or equal to, negative times a negative is a positive. Let's write that as a fraction. So 7 times 2 is 14. 1 times 1 is 1, so that's positive 14. That is our final answer. Okay. Now, here we have it. We reversed the symbol because we had a negative coefficient. You reverse the symbol in your final answer. Now let's graph that inequality. Identify 0, plot 14. That is a closed circle. So let's put a closed circle over the 14. and all values of m less than or equal to 14. So let me ask you a question. What would be a solution if somebody asks you, give me a solution that makes this inequality true? Well, is 6 less than or equal to 14? Yes, it's less than 14. What about 14? Yes, 14 would be a solution because it says or equal to, right? Very good. Thanks for hanging in with this video. This one required you to think quite a bit, but watch it again. Okay, do not just watch it once. Watch it again, maybe when you're studying or something, and solve it again, and open your mouth and talk with me. So thank you for watching. If you found this video helpful, remember to like, comment, and subscribe. And don't forget to check out my Patreon page on my video description below. On my Patreon page, you can get access to exclusive math lessons, study tips, live Q&A, and more. See you next time.